Hello and welcome again to the Writer Review. This is Eric Carrot Writer, and this week we're going to be taking a look back at the 1982 science fiction movie titled Blade Runner. Now, Blade Runner runs for 1 hour and 57 minutes long. It is directed by Ridley Scott, the man behind the movie Alien. This is actually Ridley Scott's first movie that was filmed in the United States. You know, the Alien movie, although was universally approved and praised, it was pretty much filmed in his native country of Britain. This movie, Blade Runner, was filmed in America. The script was written by Hampton Fancher and David Peoples. It is based off of the novel from 1968 called Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? And the author was Philip K. Dick. Boy, I bet high school was kind to him. It is produced by Michael Dealey, the soundtrack by Vangelis, the cinematography by Jordan Cronenweth, and it was edited by Terry Rawlings and Marsha Nakashima. And this movie stars Harrison Ford, Sean Young, Rutger Hauer, Edward James Olmos, Daryl Hannah. Jeez, you get females with male names. Sean and Daryl. Emmet Walsh, William Sanderson, who's not playing Larry, who doesn't have two brothers named Daryl. Nah, I'm just kidding. These guys are very versatile people. We also got Brion James. We got Joe Turkel, who you may have remembered as Lloyd, the bartender in The Shining. We have Joanna Cassidy, James Hong, Morgan Paull, and Pyke. Oh, what a name is that? Okay. So, from a 1982 perspective, Blade Runner is set in a dystopian November of 2019. Okay, listen, I've lived in 2019 pre-COVID, but 2019, well, we still don't have flying cars yet. Although we are working in the process of having hybrid cars that actually run on itself. Although in the near future, we could probably just use it almost like remote control type of things to get from one destination to another. It's in the works. I'm not joking. But we still have not yet found flying cars yet, or megalopolises that seem to expand from one territory to the next, where suburban and rural life is practically virtually obsolete. But this is from a 1982 perspective of what 2019 was like to them back then. Particularly Los Angeles, which almost looks a lot like Tokyo, especially with billboards flashing on skyscrapers and shit like that. Where the living population ceases to exist, and all animals have become extinct. Though some individuals may probably have something like virtual pets as companions, which is something we have now. Yes, we have virtual pets. So they weren't really that all off with their predictions of the future from a 1982 standpoint. We have virtual pets. Hey, if you don't want to clean up the shit from your real pets, well, at least you'll have a virtual pet as a companion. Sure, you may still have to feed them and take them out for a walk and all that, but at least it might be just as effective as the real one. Though played as a cyberpunk, dystopian situated sci-fi movie, yes, this movie actually kind of started the whole cyberpunk era, which was really, really vintage 80s sci-fi. The film also succeeds as a film noir to a greater effect. Yes, it's got a bit of that mystery genre to it. Because not only are we dealing with futuristic lifestyle, but we also have a little bit of a mystery as about, the questioning of one's existence. The Tyrell Corporation have created humanoid individuals who are better known as replicants, who resemble humans. They sort of act like humans except for they don't have souls. They're more powerful and more advanced, and they're lean, mean killing machines. But they are also deemed illegal to enter Earth. A special police force known as Blade Runners have been assigned to retire them. What do I mean by retire them? What do you think? What do you think? Have them executed. But here they are. They're walking amongst the human beings. They're mean, lean killing machines. But they got one big weakness. Aside from not having souls or really having any much sense of feeling of compassion. No, they're also vulnerable. Then they only have like 4 years of life on Earth before they become executed. Before they just combust. There you go. That's the proper word. After 4 years, they just combust, which means once their time is limited, once their limited time is up, they're gone. But we just can't let these replicants go out killing people, most of the time just innocent people. And yes, they do go out and kill people. Some may deserve it, others may not. A lot may not. Now, of course, this special police force is called Blade Runners. Why is that? I don't know, I guess it's just a cool name. Because never once does the name Blade Runners is ever mentioned in the Philip K. Dick novel. I think it was just pretty much a random name that Ridley Scott dug up. He thought it sounded cool. Because this is a cyberpunk movie. We need to have some kind of coolness to this sci-fi stuff. What I mean by cyberpunk, it's not, like a bunch of nerdy scientists and all that. Although Tyrell himself kind of comes across as being some kind of a engineering genius who created these replicants. But the replicants also are a little bit almost like children. Yeah, I know they seem to come in the manifestation of adults. But they also seem to be questioning the purpose of why they're here and what their real intentions are. And I think they also try to take this to their creator. One of the things I liked about Blade Runner is that it never once does it spoon feed you. This is actually a sci-fi movie that actually does have a great level of intelligence, and it doesn't spoon feed you. This is not some alien blasting action movie. No. And even our leading character, our leading protagonist, even sometimes often questions if he's doing the right thing or wrong thing by having these replicants executed. And sometimes even questioning his own self. I mean, there has been the age-old question of whether or not our main protagonist might even be a replicant himself. You know? There's a lot of questions that are left unanswered, and it's not for a bad reason either. It's a good thing because at least we, the audience, can draw our own conclusions, come up with our own interpretations. And the best part about it is there are no right and there are no wrong answers. Unlike the traditional noir films, Blade Runner definitely has color, though it's still dark, dreary, and rains in every scene, especially among the poor people. It's always dark and rainy all the time. But the upper echelons, well, they live in their high-rise, deluxe, sky-pad apartments, and they actually enjoy the benefits of being rich, including having the sunshine on them. Light of day is pretty much absent in most of the movies, especially to the working class. The environment in this movie is quite infertile, combined with archaic technology, an abnormal-looking bluish light, and spaceships that have neon backgrounds. The aesthetic in this movie truly captures the essence of 80s cinema, where the old school technology is compared to the more modern standards. But then again, their view of 2019 is seen differently than the 2019 we human beings who have lived at that time have experienced. Is it any different than, compared to the 80s? A lot has changed, yes. Definitely. But not in the over-the-top sense. Okay? Remember, we still don't have the flying cars yet, though it is still in consideration. Though the sci-fi genre may have worn out its welcome over the years, the storytelling featured here is appealing. Underneath the continual raining, Blade Runner is very culturally uplifting with a diverse melting pot of unique people and their customs. So the story goes, 4 replicants have invaded Earth, and it's up to fellow Blade Runner Rick Deckard, played by Harrison Ford, sent to retire them. But looking for them is easier said than done, but Deckard has the most experience of all the Blade Runners out there. And even he's been contemplating retirement himself, simply because he's just tired of it. Harrison Ford was definitely a great choice to play Rick Deckard, because let's face it, since the 70s, with the Star Wars franchise and the Indiana Jones, Harrison Ford was the hot ticket in town, because everybody was looking to watch for him. Because his popularity gained increasingly high, thanks to his performances as Han Solo in the Star Wars movies and Indiana Jones. But so he was and his performance as Rick Deckard is truly, truly captivating. I really thought he did quite well in his role as a bit of a tortured soul, and is even often questioning himself if whether or not it's worth risking his life to defeat these dangerous cyborgs known as the replicants. His first quest is to look for the creator of these replicants. Dr. Eldon Tyrell, played by Turkel, and to conduct a test on a young woman named Rachel, played by Sean Young, who might be a replicant, though she might not know if she is one. I like to think maybe she is a replicant, but probably somewhat of a more advanced replicant than the ones that Deckard is after. I mean, they go through this kind of weird motion eye test and all this other rather bizarre interrogation process to see if even these people, because how can you tell a replicant from a human? Is that, of course, humans have souls, replicants don't. Humans can actually trace their family backgrounds while replicants don't, because they're not born, they're made, they're created. And I think they also have some kind of a coloring in their eyes that also visually indicates who's a replicant and who's a human. And they go through all these kind of weird shit that probably might make sense to them, but it's just something I don't have a fucking clue about. Whoa. So the type of interrogation test that they conduct is something called the Voight Camp test. Why does that sound so concentration camp like? I don't know. Never mind that joke. Anyway, they test it on her and goes further into his investigation. Meanwhile, a on-the-loose replicant by the name of Roy Batty, played by Rutger Hauer, and another replicant by the name of Leon Kowalski, played by Brion James. An eye manufacturer for the replicants, somebody goes by the name of Hannibal Chu, who specializes in creating replicant eyes, leads them to a gifted genetic designer by the name of J.F. Sebastian, played by William Sanderson, who looks so completely different from his Larry character on Newhart. I know, and in replace of his brothers Daryl and his other brother Daryl, well, let's just face it, he's got a bunch of little miniature cyborgs in his apartment who kind of work as servants to him or something like that. And they too also seem to possess kind of almost look like human midgets, even though they are actually played by midget actors. Is it proper to call these people midgets? Otherwise people will call me size-phobic. Am I going to be called size phobia if I refer to a little person as a midget? It's bad enough I got called down. I don't want to be accused of discriminatory things. I could be a victim of size prejudice as well because I'm 6'2". Anyways, enough of that. And there's also a fellow replicant by the name of Priest, played by Daryl Hannah, gets invited into Sebastian's home. And, You see, the thing about these cyborgs is that even though they're portrayed to be like regular average sized adults, they seem to still have a bit of that kid-like features about them. And even though, like Roy Batty and the rest of the other cyborgs are depicted as villains, they actually are not, like the villains that you kind of want to hate. Sure, they're out to do destruction and chaos and run rampant in Los Angeles, killing people. But the question is, we want to know is, they're not actually doing it because they know exactly what they're doing. They're doing it because they were programmed. Kind of makes you think that you might compare them to like the Frankenstein monster. I mean, once the Frankenstein monster was unleashed and went loose on a rampage killing people, you sort of sometimes wonder, you fear the monster, but then there's also a bit of you that feels sorry for the monster. You feel that same way too with the replicants. Which leads you to the question is, who is the real monster? The monster itself, or the replicants behind the creator? I like to think that it's the creator of these replicants that's the real monster. It's just like Frankenstein. It's not Frankenstein monster that's the real villain in the story. It's the man behind the monster. So that's why I think that Dr. Tyrell is actually the main villain in the story. Even though, he's building all these replicants, these illegal replicants, to take down Los Angeles. While the others are just so vulnerable and naive, they don't have a clear conscience of their own actions. They don't really have a motive. Deckard's first encounter with a replicant leads him on a trail of snake scales. And this is where he meets Zora, played by Joanna Cassidy, who poses as a stripper, and she's also accompanied by a computerized snake. Sorry, lady, you're not my type. I will go nowhere near you. Unless you want me to go insane. And I'm not joking either. Anyways, Deckard goes incognito while Zora goes on with her act, but then kills her. Leon knows what had transpired and tries to get even. With some assistance, Deckard was able to finish off Leon, making it 2 down and 2 more to go. Roy and Pris. So Roy follows Sebastian to the secret headquarters to Dr. Tyrell's domain, where it's been revealed that replicants can only function under a 4-year lifespan. So they can go out on a killing frenzy for 4 years before they just simply combust. Roy has some choice words for his creator, and then they have a conflicting exchange of words. After that heated discussion, Roy gives his master a hug and a kiss, and then eliminates him. With his superhuman strength, He squeezes his thumbs through through Dr. Tyrell's eyes, and apparently he's gone. Shortly afterwards, Sebastian met his fate as well. The Roy/Tyrell confrontation can almost be similar, like I've said before, in exchange between Dr. Frankenstein and his creator, as both end up questioning their existence. Deckard finds Priest at Sebastian's apartment and Sebastian gets ambushed, but he later kills her. And now it just comes down to Rick and Roy for a climactic showdown. These scenes may look like mindless cat and mouse chases, as each character is looking to destroy one another, and at times it appears like both adversaries come across as inhuman, which leads me to question, is Deckard himself a replicant, or is he a human being? I mean, it's like one of those we will never know. Though we know Roy is a replicant, we even sometimes wonder if Deckard himself is one, too. The ending seems to also come off strange, but is rather a powerful climax and something a little more different than what we see in a lot of climactic fights just when it comes down to almost like a battle of the death. I mean, there was a part where Deckard was like dangling from a building. And instead of Batty, just finishing him off by, I don't know, stepping on his fingers, where he would just plunge to his death. No. Knowing that Batty, his time is almost limited before he eventually falls to self-retirement. I mean, he even goes too far as to even take a nail and stab himself in the hands, just so that he could keep his composure, so that he could pretty much die in his own merits, knowing that his time is running out. So instead of just letting Deckard plunge to his demise, he actually picks him up as a form of mutual respect and actually saves him. Never before have I ever seen a villain saving a hero, but he does. And then, before you know it, he eventually falls to his death. Knowing all too well that his days are numbered. He lets out a monologue revealing that his limited time on Earth will be like tears from the rain lost in time. Another interesting and outstanding performance comes from a mysterious individual who goes by the name of Gaff, played by Edward James Olmos, a fellow officer who's crafty in origami mentions to Deckard that she too won't have long to live. Now, a lot of people think that what is the point of him creating origami paper folding picture art? Like, what is his purpose? Well, a lot of it is symbolism. And I think the characters in this movie seem to have some kind of form of symbolism as to what they represent. Like when Deckard refuses to take down these replicants, Gaff would create a paper folding replicant of a chicken. And then and then in a bit of some dark and maybe somewhat perverse humor, he creates an origami statue of a stick-figured man with an erected schlong, meaning that he's got the hots for this more advanced replicant like Rachel. And I think each of the replicants seem to have some form of an animal. I believe Pris was a raccoon. Zora was, well, she's obviously a snake, since she seems to handle snakes. I don't remember baddies. And I don't remember Leon's either. I believe Tyrell was an owl because of the thick glasses he wore, or because he was wise. I believe Sebastian was a weasel because, he was kind of scrawny in stature and also quite clever. And even Deckard himself has a unicorn, which could probably make you even question if he himself might be a replicant. So when he comes to his apartment and sees Rachel sleeping in his bed, we see the origami unicorn that was made by Gaff. Deckard takes Rachel and drives away without caring if she's a replicant or not. He's in love with her. And I guess he just doesn't care. One of the things that makes this film stand out is that all the variations of this movie, the director's cut, the final cut, etc., is that there are different interpretations for each and every one of them. The magic of this film is the allure and the appeal of the fan base it's gotten over the years. I know the happy ending might be a bit cliched and wrapped up way too nicely for its own taste. It's still a good watch for everyone to enjoy. So therefore, and all this said and done, if I was to give this movie a scale out of 10, I would give Blade Runner from 1982 a 9 out of 10. So I guess this ends my ride review. Thank you all for listening in. If you wish to subscribe to my YouTube channel, please feel free to do so. If you wish to leave a comment, go right ahead. But just remember the 3 simple rules. Be kind, be courteous, and please refrain from any rude comments. And I will be back again with another movie review. So until next time, this is Eric Red Rider saying, keep watching those movies, and I'll see you around. Goodbye.